When English ships returned to Roanoke Island in 1590, 3 years after leaving behind 115 settlers, men, women, and children, they found the colony empty. Houses were dismantled, supplies gone, and the only clue carved into a tree was a single word: Croatoan. No graves, no bodies, no sign of struggle, just silence. That mystery, the disappearance of America's first English colony, still haunts historians more than 4 centuries later. The dream of a new world. In the late 16th century, England was hungry for empire. Spain controlled most of the New World, its ships laden with gold and silver from the Americas, while England lagged behind. Queen Elizabeth I needed a foothold across the Atlantic, and a daring explorer named Sir Walter Raleigh promised to give her one. Raleigh envisioned a permanent English colony on the coast of the New World. It would serve as a base for trade, defense, and privateering, attacking Spanish ships that passed through the Caribbean laden with treasure. In 1584, Raleigh's first expedition reached what is now North Carolina and named the region Virginia in honor of the Virgin Queen. The explorers returned to England with glowing tales of fertile land, friendly natives, and endless possibilities. Encouraged, Raleigh sponsored a second expedition, this time to settle. The first attempt, failure and hunger. In 1585, a group of 108 men led by Sir Richard Grenville and Ralph Lane arrived on Roanoke Island. But the dream of prosperity quickly turned into a nightmare. They found the land difficult to farm, food scarce, and relations with local tribes tense. Lane's men, desperate and suspicious, killed the native chief Wingina after a misunderstanding, destroying any chance of peace. By the time Sir Francis Drake stopped by in 1586, after raiding Spanish ships, the colonists were starving. They begged to return to England. Raleigh's dream was temporarily abandoned, but he was not done. The second colony. Hope returns. In 1587, Raleigh tried again. This time he sent 117 settlers, including women and children, under the leadership of John White, a skilled artist and cartographer. This was not an army. This was a community. Among them was White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband, Ananias. When they arrived on Roanoke, the island was eerily empty. The fort from the previous colony abandoned. The fields overgrown. Still, they built new homes, repaired old ones, and began life anew. In August 1587, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America. Her birth was celebrated with hope that this new life symbolized the beginning of a permanent English presence. But hope didn't last long. 4. Isolation and desperation. The settlers soon realized they were stranded. Their supplies were running low, and the ship that brought them refused to stay long. Native tribes, still angry from the previous colony's violence, refused to trade food. John White, torn between duty and family, decided to sail back to England for help. He promised to return quickly with ships, men, and provisions. But fate had other plans. When White reached England in late 1587, the country was in crisis. Spain was preparing to invade England with its mighty armada, and every ship was needed for defense. White begged for just one small vessel to rescue his family. He was refused again and again. It would be 3 long years before he could return. 5. The empty colony. When White finally arrived at Roanoke in August 1590, his heart raced as he stepped onto the familiar shore, but the settlement was deserted. No smoke, no laughter, no people. Only the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post, and crow etched into a nearby tree. White took it as a hopeful sign. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now Hatteras Island, home to a friendly tribe who had once helped the settlers. He tried to sail there immediately, but a violent storm struck. His ship was damaged, and the crew refused to continue. They turned back to England. John White never saw his daughter, granddaughter, or any of the settlers again. VII. Theories and Shadows. For centuries, historians, archaeologists, and dreamers have tried to uncover what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke. Did they join the Croatoan tribe? Were they killed by hostile natives? Did they starve and scatter England? Or was there something even stranger? The Croatoan integration theory. Many believe the colonists simply merged with friendly tribes, learning their language and customs to survive. Reports from later English explorers mention Native Americans with gray eyes or European features, possible descendants of the lost settlers. The Spanish attack theory. At the time, Spanish troops were active along the southeastern coast, hunting English outposts. Some historians suggest the Roanoke colony was discovered and destroyed by Spanish soldiers. Starvation and migration. With food scarce, some scholars think the settlers tried to move inland toward the Chesapeake Bay, where Raleigh originally intended them to settle. Archaeological findings in nearby areas show traces of European goods from that period. The supernatural legends. Centuries later, eerie tales began to circulate among local tribes, whispers of a curse, strange lights, and a word of power carved into wood, Croatoan. When the writer Edgar Allan Poe mysteriously vanished for several days before his death in 1849, it was said that the word Croatoan was found carved into his desk. Similar stories emerged with Amelia Earhart's missing plane and other vanishings, though historians dismiss these as coincidences or myths. VIII. The Legacy of Roanoke.
The disappearance of the lost colony became America's first great unsolved mystery, a story told and retold through generations. It captured the imagination of writers, historians, and even conspiracy theorists. But beyond the mystery, the Roanoke colony revealed the brutal reality of early colonization, the clash of cultures, the fragility of survival, and the thin line between hope and despair. Every American colony that followed, Jamestown, Plymouth, and others, learned from Roanoke's failure. They built stronger defenses, cultivated local alliances, and ensured steady supplies. In that sense, the lost colony did not vanish entirely. It became a lesson, carved not into wood, but into history itself. In recent decades, archaeologists have uncovered tantalizing clues. Artifacts, a gun barrel, a slate tablet, fragments of English pottery have been found on Hatteras Island and on the mainland near the Albemarle Sound. One of the most mysterious discoveries is the Dare Stone, a series of inscribed rocks found in the 1930s that claim to tell the fate of the colonists, that they moved inland, were attacked, and that Eleanor Dare survived long enough to carve a farewell to her father. Though some stones were proven fake, a few remain unexplained. Even today, excavations continue, with scientists using advanced technology, satellite imaging, DNA analysis, and isotope testing to trace the colonists' possible descendants. The mystery is not dead. 9. Echoes through time. Over 400 years later, Roanoke remains a symbol of human endurance and human fragility. It reminds us that the story of America did not begin with success, but with loss. That courage often meets tragedy before triumph, and that somewhere, buried under centuries of soil and silence, may still lie the truth, the bones, tools, or letters of those 1,115 souls who dared to dream of a new world and vanished into the wild unknown. Perhaps one day we will finally uncover what happened to them. Until then, the whisper remains. Croatoan.